The world has been increasingly engaged in a struggle between two systems of governance that are diametrically opposed to each other: open society and closed society.
If this winter is a catastrophe for Ukraine, the next winter would be worse for Ukraine, because Russia is fighting on her doorstep, and the West and the United States are far away from Ukraine. So you can't beat Ukraine in her next door neighbor territory. And so it is a matter of time before the nuclear war takes place.
Independent Islamic Republic.
In an open society, the rule of the state is to protect the freedom of the individual.
It's the so-called humanist, George Soros, back in the picture again, giving us speeches telling us how he cares so much about the Western world and Ukraine and the civilians out there. Of course, it's all false and misleading. Whatever comes out from that dinosaur's mouth should not be consumed, because it was back in 1993 he said the collapse of the USSR was just too little, and he said that Russia would continue to pose a threat to the West, and the only way to tackle Russia is to completely neutralize it.
The invasion of Ukraine didn't come out of the blue.
And to implement this plan, that is the complete destruction of Russia, George Soros proposed using soldiers of the former USSR Eastern Bloc as cannon fodder in order to reduce losses of NATO. And that is exactly what's happening today. The countries of Eastern Europe, former partners of the Soviet Union, according to the plan, should be fed lies, promising membership in the North Atlantic Alliance and forced to do the dirty work of the Western world.
С праздником вас! С Днем Великой Победы! Ура!
Without trying to resolve the issue with Russia, these Satanists have been planning to destroy Russia completely by using mostly Eastern European countries, and this plan was drawn up almost 30 years ago. Whatever your opinion is on Ukraine, as human beings, we can all agree the war needs to end and both sides must be brought to the negotiation table, but that's not happening because Western leaders are supplying weapons and prolonging the war. Civilians are dying, and to be honest, the collective West don't really care about Ukrainians, because Ukrainian lives are there to serve as the foundation of a new world order. I don't want to get into too much detail in this video, so I'm going to try and keep it very high level. If you don't understand, then you can discuss in the comment section. Some of you may already know, Western leaders don't actually want a nuclear war. No leader does. They just want to win the war. But there is a certain country on this planet which would like to see nuclear showdown, and the reason for that is, if the West and Russians actually fight a nuclear war, then mutual destruction of both sides is guaranteed. This means Israel can rise to power, as per prophecy.
We knew the world would not be the same. Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds.
The war in the east of Europe is the embodiment of this project promoted by George Soros and the people from the shadows. Real lives from Eastern Europe are being used here. Ukrainian authorities are even hiding the losses of the armed forces of Ukraine. And as for civilians, only God knows what the true figure is. And please don't start this nonsense that Russia is targeting civilians, because they aren't. The truth is, the Ukrainian army have been found plenty of times using civilians as human shields. It's utterly disgusting. He doesn't care about the West, nor any civilians for that matter, whether in the eastern part of Europe or the Western Bloc. He's a Talmudist who wants to see nuclear war so the Western world and Russia mutually destroy one another, all for Israel to rise as a global power at the end. I've left a link to the 1993 article written by George Soros in my description section. The article is entitled "Towards a New World Order, NATO's Future." This businessman, this philanthropist, this so-called humanist, he believes that the West will not tolerate if the citizens of the so-called civilized world die by tens of thousands, so others must be used. You see how sick this dinosaur is? My dear friends, we're all children of Adam. Don't you think our hearts go out to the Ukrainian civilians? Of course it does. But you need to understand one thing. Russia is willing to talk. That's the difference. And the conditions are extremely simple. Demilitarize Ukraine so it doesn't pose a threat to Russia. That's all. This is all getting too serious now. The world is on the brink of annihilation. If Western leaders don't wake up and actually start talking peace, then only Allah knows what's in store for us next winter. If they don't wish to talk peace, then we can only depend on Allah and pray for Russia's victory. The future of humanity depends on it. Thanks for listening to the Independent Islamic Republic. Assalamu alaikum, sayonara, sasrikal, namaste, adios. Have a wonderful night.
С праздником вас! С Днем Великой Победы! Ура!